Okay, so I want to start today with a little experiment. Unless you are, currently merging onto a highway or operating a table saw, I want you to close your eyes just for a second.
Yeah, please keep them open if you are driving. We really don't need that kind of liability on this deep dive.
Right, right. Safety first, always. But if you are somewhere safe, just close them. Now, I want you to mentally transport yourself to your bedroom.
Okay.
It's, let's say, 11 p.m. You have had a really long day, maybe a super stressful one. You walk into your room, you are just totally ready to crash. What is the light doing?
Oh, man. I could already picture the scene for a lot of people. Is it the big light?
Exactly. Is it that stark overhead glare that makes you feel like you are about to be interrogated? Or, I don't know, maybe it's pitch black and you immediately stub your toe on the dresser?
Yeah, the classics.
Or is there a glow?
You are setting the stage for what we are calling mood architecture today.
Mood architecture. I mean, it sounds a little bit fancy, right? Maybe even a little pretentious, honestly.
A little bit, yeah.
But we are diving into a stack of research today centered around a guide called Luminous Slumber. It's a guide to bedroom neon psychology. And before anyone rolls their eyes thinking we are just talking about interior decorating or hanging a cheap beer sign on the wall, you really got to stick with us.
Right. Because when we first looked at this source material, specifically the insights from the artneon.com and the accompanying psychological research they cite, it really just looked like a design catalog.
Totally.
But once you peel back the glossy photos, it is actually a biohacking manual.
And that is the hook for me.
Yeah.
This isn't just about what looks cool on social media. It is about a fundamental biological conflict.
Yeah.
Because we love the aesthetic of neon. It's nostalgic, it's vibrant, it feels alive. But, we also really need to sleep. And typically glowing gas tubes and deep REM sleep are just mortal enemies.
They absolutely are, or at least they used to be.
Yeah.
The mission of this deep dive is to answer a very specific biological question. Can you introduce light into a room designed for darkness without just completely wrecking your nervous system?
So let's start with the room itself. Because the guide makes a pretty aggressive argument right off the bat about how we define a bedroom.
It does.
It basically says we are doing it all wrong.
Yeah, it argues that we have completely broken the definition of the bedroom. I mean, think about it. For most of us, the bedroom has just become a multi-purpose storage unit where we also happen to go unconscious for a few hours.
Yeah, it's a laundry folding station, it's a home office, it's a late-night doom-scrolling booth.
Exactly. But the source material pushes for a total rebrand of the space. It defines the bedroom specifically as a recovery space.
A recovery space, it feels a little, I don't know, clinical, almost like a sports medicine term.
It does sound a bit clinical.
I really like the implication there.
It is vital. Think about the inputs you deal with all day. You've got high-frequency noise, caffeine, decision fatigue, traffic, endless blue light from screens. You are essentially redlining your engine all day long. So the bedroom's biological function isn't just to sleep. It is downshifting. It's about moving the autonomic nervous system from sympathetic, which is your fight or flight, over to parasympathetic, rest and digest.
So the decor in your room isn't just decoration. The decor is actually the brake pedal.
Precisely. And light is the primary signal for that brake pedal. The guide breaks down the light spectrum in a way that is really interesting. It explains that cool, harsh lighting, like high Kelvin temperatures, is essentially a signal to your prehistoric brain that says, hey, the sun is up, be alert, hunt, gather.
Which is, great at 9 a.m. when you need to get work done.
Right.
But it is terrible at 11 p.m. when you are trying to wind down.
It is disastrous at 11 p.m. It actively suppresses melatonin, whereas soft, warm tones signal things like fire, sunset, and safety. So when you are picking a neon sign or really any lamp in your room, you aren't just picking a color you like. You are deciding what chemical instructions to send to your pineal gland.
Okay, that raises the stakes significantly. It's not just, does this match my rug? It's, do I want to chemically sabotage my ability to sleep tonight?
That is a bit dramatic, but directionally, yeah, you are accurate.
So let's get into the actual specifics. The guide analyzes specific colors, not just by how they look, but by how they hit the brain. And it starts with what it calls the safe choice.
Warm white.
Now, I have to be the devil's advocate here for a second.
Yep.
Warm white neon. Isn't the whole point of neon to be neon, like colorful, electric? Warm white just sounds like a fancy way of saying light bulb.
I completely get that reaction. It feels very vanilla. But the guide calls it the gold standard for a reason. It uses terms like clean, balanced, and minimal to describe it.
So it's like the little black dress of lighting.
That is the perfect analogy. Think about versatility. If you go out and buy a bright purple sign, you are committing to a very specific vibe in that room.
Yeah, that's true.
If you change your duvet cover next month, or paint the walls, or just change your personal style, that purple might suddenly look completely garish. Warm white is distinct because it mimics the color temperature of incandescent bulbs or candlelight, usually around 2700 to 3000 Kelvin.
So it creates atmosphere without screaming, hey, look at me.
Exactly. In a recovery space, you often want the design to whisper, not shout. Warm white adds texture and a nice glow without dominating the personality of the room. It creates what interior designers actually call visual silence.
Visual silence.
Yeah, it's the safest entry point if you are worried about growing out of the look.
Okay, I can respect the practicality of that. But let's say I am not a minimalist. Let's say I want to really feel something when I walk into the room. The guide moves on to what it calls the emotional choice.
Soft pink.
Pause. We really need to address the elephant in the room here.
Oops, I know where you're going with this.
When I hear pink neon, I do not think relaxing bedroom. I think bachelorette party in Nashville. Or like a dive bar bathroom.
You think chaotic energy?
I think loud. I think cheap. I think a sign that says rosé all day in cursive.
And the guide actually anticipates that exact reaction. It draws a very hard line between hot pink or electric magenta and the soft pink frequencies they recommend for home use.
So we are talking more like blush, rose gold.
Think Himalayan salt lamp. That kind of pink.
Ah, okay. That is a very different vibe.
It is. The psychology here is pretty fascinating. The source claims that soft pink, in that much lower register, triggers a sense of intimacy and emotional safety. It is literally described as a nurturing color.
Nurturing.
Yeah, it mimics the flush of skin or a very soft, dusty sunset.
Nurturing is a strong word for a light fixture.
But it fits the data. It is recommended specifically for cozy aesthetic spaces or couples' bedrooms because it softens the hard edges of a room. If warm white is neutral, soft pink is affectionate. It lowers the emotional temperature of the room.
And I noticed the guide made a specific technical note here about dimming, like how dimming changes the actual nature of the color.
Yes, and this applies to all of them, but it is especially true for pink. When you run a pink LED at 100% brightness, it can really lean towards that dive bar vibe you mentioned.
Right.
But when you dim it down to 20%, the saturation drops. It becomes a presence rather than a sign. It stops being pink light and just becomes rosy atmosphere.
I like that distinction. It creates a sort of lo-fi beats to study to kind of environment.
Exactly. Feels safe.
All right, we have to move to the controversial one, the paradox. Let's talk about blue.
Yes. The blue light paradox. This is where psychology and biology basically get into a fistfight.
Because if you surveyed 100 people right now and asked, what is the most relaxing color, I bet 90 of them are going to say blue.
Easily.
Blue is the ocean. Blue is the sky. Blue is every spa logo ever created. Blue is calm.
Psychologically, you are absolutely right. We strongly associate blue with coolness, calmness, and water. Studies show that just looking at the color blue can lower blood pressure in theory.
But
biologically, blue light is the absolute worst enemy of sleep.
because of the sky.
Because of the sky at high noon, specifically. Our eyes contain these specific cells. They're called intrinsically photosensitive retinal ganglion cells, if you want the highly technical term.
Wow. Okay.
And they're incredibly sensitive to blue wavelengths. When blue light hits them, they send a direct, immediate signal to the brain. It says, it is daytime. Stop making melatonin right now. Wake up.
So the color that feels like a spa day is actually, chemically speaking, punching you in the face.
Paradoxically, yes. A deep blue neon sign, if it is bright enough, is essentially a miniature sun sitting on your wall. It might look chill to your conscious mind, but your brainstem thinks you are staring at the sky at 12 p.m.
So does the guy just say ban blue? Is it completely forbidden in the bedroom?
No, and I really appreciate the nuance here because a lot of online sleep gurus will just say, never use blue, wear blue blocker glasses for the rest of your life.
Yeah, you see that everywhere.
The guide acknowledges that people love the urban modern aesthetic. Blue looks cool, it looks futuristic, so it offers a biological compromise.
How do we biohack the blue then?
3 rules. First, hue selection. You have to avoid the supersaturated electric high-frequency blues.
Yeah.
Go for muted, deeper tones, maybe a slate blue or an ice blue rather than a harsh royal blue.
Okay, so dial back the saturation right from the start.
Second, and this is crucial, placement. Do not put a blue neon light directly in your line of sight while you are lying in bed.
So don't stare directly into the laser beam.
Right. If it is behind you or reflecting off a wall, the intensity that actually hits your retina is significantly lower.
Hmm.
And third, the non-negotiable rule. You must use a dimmer.
Dosage control.
Exactly. If you crank that blue down to a faint glow, maybe 10% brightness, you get the urban vibe without triggering the full daytime alarm in your brain. You are essentially threading the needle between style and biology.
That is a really helpful distinction. It isn't that blue is bad, it is that bright blue is bad.
Nuance is everything in biology.
Okay, let's move over to the dramatic side of the spectrum. The guide groups purple and red together as the mood-driven options. Let's start with purple.
Purple is the wild card here. It sits right on the border between the calm of blue and the intense stimulation of red. The guide describes it as creative, moody, and otherworldly.
It feels very Prince.
It is very Prince. It isn't necessarily for a room where you just want to collapse and snore. It is for a space that is meant to inspire you.
Okay.
If your bedroom is also your creative sanctuary, or if you really want that dreamscape feeling, purple works. It signals imagination rather than just pure rest.
And then there is red. Now, I have read a lot of biohacking stuff that says red is the only light you should have on at night. Red light therapy, red night lights, purely because it doesn't kill melatonin, right?
Biologically, you are correct. Red light has the longest wavelength and the lowest energy on the visible spectrum. It is practically invisible to those daylight sensors in your eyes we just talked about.
Right.
You could blast red light in your room, and your melatonin production would be largely unaffected.
So why isn't it the #1 recommendation in the guide? Why is it listed under dramatic and intense?
Because we aren't just biological machines. We are psychological ones, too. What does the color red signify in our culture?
Stop. Danger. Fire.
Alert. Blood.
Yeah.
Emergency. So, while biologically a red light is safe for sleep, psychologically, a bright red neon sign can feel incredibly aggressive.
It feels like a literal warning sign, or like you are in a submarine that is about to sink.
Or a red light district window. It carries a lot of cultural baggage. The guide warns that a bright red sign can feel stimulating, not because of the light frequency itself, but because of the emotional association we have with it.
Wow.
It raises your pulse, not because it's suppressing melatonin, but because it's triggering adrenaline.
That is a fascinating conflict. Biology says sleep, psychology says run.
Exactly. So the advice for red and purple, too, actually is similar to blue. These are better suited for what the guide calls aesthetic corners.
Meaning?
Don't center them over the headboard like some holy relic. Put them over a vanity, near a reading chair. Let them cast a secondary glow in the room. Treat them like an accent color, not the base coat.
That makes a lot of sense. It is about creating pockets of mood rather than bathing the entire room in danger red.
Precisely.
Now, we have touched on this a few times, but the guide has a whole section dedicated to the technical reality of all this. And honestly, this was a real aha moment for me when going through the sources.
Yeah, it's a big shift.
It basically argues that everything we just discussed about color, it might matter less than this one other factor.
Brightness level often matters more than color. That is the golden rule of luminous slumber.
Because even warm white cyan, which we establish is the safe choice, if it is blazing at 10,000 lumens, it is going to keep you awake.
100%. Light intensity is the volume knob. You can listen to a lullaby, which is obviously soothing. But if you blast that lullaby at 120 decibels through a stadium sound system, it is not going to help you sleep.
Right.
It is the exact same concept with light. Any photon, if it is bright enough, signals your brain to wake up.
And this is where the tech shift really comes in. We aren't talking about old school neon anymore.
Right. When people picture neon, they picture the 1980s. Glass tubes, buzzing transformers, high voltage, and heat. Lots of heat.
The kind that makes you sweat if you stand too close to it in a bar.
Exactly. You would never put that in a bedroom. It is a massive fire hazard, and it is incredibly fragile. The guide highlights that modern neon, specifically the type sold by platforms like the artneon.com, is actually LED technology housed in flexible silicone.
So it is flexible and it is cool to the touch.
Low voltage, zero heat. Safety is obviously #1. You do not want a hot glass tube hovering over your bed while you sleep, but the real game changer for sleep is the control you get.
The dimming.
Yes, old neon is either on or off. There's no middle ground whatsoever.
It's a totally binary.
But LED is analog. You can dim it. And this is where the recovery space concept becomes highly practical. The guide argues that the goal is to control the mood, rather than being controlled by the light. You can have that bright, punchy pink at 7 p.m. while you're getting dressed for dinner.
Sure.
But at 10:30 p.m., you drop it down to 15%.
So the sign actually changes function. It goes from being decor to being a nightlight.
Exactly. At 15% brightness, you get the vibe without the biological penalty. It allows the room to shift gears right alongside your body.
It makes the room dynamic. I really like that. It is not just a static poster glued to the wall.
Right.
It is a living part of the environment.
It's a responsive design. It adapts to the time of day, just like we do.
So we have got the spectrum covered. We have got the tech covered. The guide wraps up with a sort of personality match section. I want to run through these pretty quickly just to see if they hold up to scrutiny.
Let's audit them.
Okay. Profile 1, the minimalist. This is the person with crisp white sheets, exactly one plant, and everything is in its right place.
Warm white, no question. It respects the negative space in a room like that. It adds texture, almost like a visual fabric without adding noise. It implies cleanliness.
All right, profile 2, the romantic. The person who wants their room to feel like a private retreat. Soft pink. It softens the architecture of the room. It says, leave your armor at the door. It triggers that nurturing response we talked about earlier.
Profile 3, the urban modern. The city dweller who wants their apartment to look like a moody loft in a movie.
Cool white or muted blue. But, and I will absolutely die on this hill with the dimmer, it mimics the city glow outside the window, which can actually be incredibly comforting for people used to urban environments. It feels connected to the world.
And finally, profile 4, the creative, the dreamer.
Subtle purple. It signals that this is a space for imagination, not just utility. It is for the person who keeps a dream journal on their nightstand.
I love how they categorize that.
Yeah.
But the guide ends with a philosophical point that I think is really important to land on. It says there is no universal best choice.
Right. The key word they use to tie it all together is harmony.
Harmony.
The sign should enhance the room, not hijack it. If you walk into your bedroom and the only thing you can see, the only thing that registers to your brain is the neon sign, you have probably failed at mood architecture. It is just shouting too loud.
Exactly. It needs to work with your bedding, your wall color, and your personal energy levels. It should be part of the choir, not a soloist trying to scream over everyone else.
That is a great way to put it. So, pulling this all together, we started with this idea of mood architecture. We have gone from ancient biology to modern interior design. What is the big takeaway here?
I think the real takeaway is that design is biological. We so often treat decor as purely superficial. We just think, oh, it's just stuff I bought. But this deep dive into luminous slumber shows us that our environment is actively regulating us.
It is doing work on us constantly.
It is. The bedroom is a machine for recovery, and light is the primary switch for that machine. Whether you choose the safety of warm white or the moodiness of purple, you are essentially programming your own recovery.
And knowing that modern LED tech lets us have the cool look without the heat or the insomnia is a huge plus. It means we don't have to choose between having a cool room and having a good night's sleep. We can have both if we are smart about using the dial.
We can absolutely have the aesthetic and the biology. We just have to respect the power of the light.
I really love that. So, here is my challenge for you, listening right now. Tonight, when you walk into your bedroom, don't just flop onto the bed and close your eyes. Look at the light. I mean, really look at it. Is that light telling your cortisol levels to spike? Is it telling you to wake up and hunt? Or is it telling you that you are safe and it is time to recover?
It is definitely a question worth asking.
Because if we spend a third of our lives in that room, shouldn't the light be working for us instead of against us? Just something to think about before you hit the switch tonight. Thanks for diving in with us.
Sleep well.